Hey everybody, this is Grateful Futures here. First video in a little bit. I apologize. I've been working on some other endeavors trying to make a bot with one of our current members here in my Discord group. I had another member suggest to do a really cool video. I know a lot of other people do them. So I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to give you guys a weekly recap of all of the best trades of this week on SPY, the S&P 500. So I'm going to go ahead and start from Friday and just take you guys through the trades that were kind of the best opportunities for you guys if you're trading with volume profile. So let's get started. I'm going to start with yesterday, Friday the 1st. This will be the week ending in May 1st. And let's go ahead and every time that I start my day, I go ahead and look at a 30-minute chart. And that 30-minute chart has a session volume profile on it. Now, if you guys are just starting with me, you haven't watched some of my other videos, I am going to lean pretty heavily on topics that I've taught in those videos. So if you're new to volume profile, go ahead and watch some of my other videos for this topic. It would be the mastering point of control retests video. It should be a link that's popping up in the screen, and I also have a playlist for it. I'll also be leaning pretty heavily on the delta flow profile, and I do have another video on that as well. Basically tells the buying or selling pressure at different price ranges. So let's go ahead and start. So here is my session volume profile on a 30-minute chart. This is the volume profile for each day. And what I'm looking at, right, if this is the current day, let's just go ahead and start a replay. It just would be like just as I would be seeing it during the morning. So the previous day, we had a massive dip and rip. And our point of control of that session was right here, right roughly around 719 or so. So that's always something that I mark off. It's probably one of the most important things that I look at when I'm actually making my pre-market plan. You can see I have previous day POC labeled right over there. Now I'm always looking for price to react off of that level, right? So already I was seeing some support off that previous day POC. We opened above it, and you can see these little wicks that are coming off of that level. So I'm always thinking maybe, we'll get a continuation of this really massive bull run. We'll support it, and then we'll probably move up somewhere. I'm not going to talk too much about this level that's up here. That is something I'm going to do in a later video, but I'm also using gamma for options data to kind of tell me some other important levels that I can combine with volume profile. Not what this video is about, so just going to let you guys know that I was thinking potentially this day could get bullish again, or if it does break through this and then reject it, we could try to go back down and retest some of these low volume node levels after this huge gap up. So that was my pre-market plan. Now let's actually go in and look to see what happened. So on this day, let's go ahead and we can just kind of roll the tape. So this is my delta profile. I'm going to go ahead and select the first candle of the day. So this is exactly what it would look like if you were me and sitting at my screen or having your chart exactly as I do. So let's go ahead and make this a little smaller so we can see it. Okay. Perfect. So, one thing that I always look at, and this is going to be another video this weekend that I'll make as well. One thing that I've been watching a lot is the pre-market volume profile, or really just the point of control of the pre-market. So we can see that most of the volume was concentrated up here, but there was this one really, really big spike in volume right here from a large order. So that's a level that frequently has some action off of it. So that's something that I watch. Now, because I, did kind of have this insinuation from Gamma that it was going to be a bullish day, we already saw this support off yesterday's POC. I was kind of biased bullish, and the open had this really quick dip to the pre-market point of control, and then we just started ripping. I did not enter this. I never really go in on the first candle or so, but this one I did wait for a little bit of consolidation for it to touch VWAP, this blue dotted line, and it pushed up after that. I'm not going to harp too much on this trade because there's not a ton of volume profile to talk about. So I'm just going to kind of erase that, but I did want to show you that often you do get a reaction off that pre-market point of control. And this was a really nice bull flag here off of the VWAP that went into a breakout. Now, let's go ahead and erase these so I can draw them fresh. So after this, price pretty much pumped straight to that heavy positive gamma level. Again, don't think too much about that. If you are not familiar with gamma, those would be coming in later videos as well, but it's an awesome tool. So we had price consolidate, push up, it's kind of pressing into that level and touched it pretty perfectly. And then we had this really big sell off. So anytime I see a consolidation at the top like that and then it push out of it quickly, you can kind of assume, even from the delta profile, you see there was actually buying pressure here. I mean, obviously it was rising. So what we can say is that there are buyers trapped at the top of this consolidation likely. So I always like to say, hey, if price is going to come back up and continue this bullish trend, then it's going to have to break up above that and then support it or support above it. So what actually happens most of the time is that um, when price does retrace to it, a lot of those buyers that were there kind of exit at break even, right? So a lot of the time we do get a rejection off of that. So let's just kind of see what happens here and see if we can see some other trades that we could potentially take. So we have a little bit of support here. Already this is kind of not looking great though. We're starting to get some lower high there. But what about this consolidation here? Anytime I see a consolidation, I always take a little volume profile of it. You can see that's actually where price bounced at originally. Some of these people that saw this consolidation, or maybe people still in the trade here, were entering again, thinking maybe we're just going to go to the moon off of that. We actually ended up bouncing down, breaking through it a little bit, but we did start pulling up again. Now, overall, this day is pretty bullish. There's, or at least it has buy pressure, so we're definitely going to see some retracements here. It's not just going to break all the way down and go to the previous day point of control, especially after there's been, kind of a lot of buying. I always like to say the market is like a train, right? If there's a tons of momentum, it doesn't just usually pivot and go the other way unless there's some kind of major news or something like that. So if I ever see a really strong trend one way and then it starts moving the other way, I usually don't immediately try to roll with the reversal because usually there is some kind of oscillation that goes through it while that bullish momentum runs out. So what we can do is we can actually take a volume profile of just this downtrend here, and we can see that this area right here where these people were, buyers were buying, sellers were selling, ultimately sellers won. Um, you could take a trade if it gets above that and try to get back to this area up here. I think it's just a little risky considering there is all those trap traders up there, but let's go ahead and just roll the tape and see what happens. So they do get above that, support it, we get this little pop, and then now we're at the point where these buyers are trapped. Let's see, we can even just take a volume profile just so you can see around this area is where there's those heavy buyers. Now let's go ahead and see what happens. We get this massive gap down out of there, and we actually start kind of pushing back into this consolidation area right here. Let me just take another volume profile right here just to see where most of the volume was in this general area right here. So there's a lot of buyers right here. It's probably why it gapped down so hard. Um, but this is the area we're in now. And this, you can see that there's 2 points of control right here. A lot of volume has actually happened right there. So one thing is I always say is market structure is the most important thing. And what can you say about market structure right now is that we have a initial high here, and then we have a lower high here. So it is in what I kind of consider like a bearish transition state. Of course, it could just rip back up through that, but you have to consider that as something legitimate. Especially coming off of such a massive bull run all week. Um, you know, it came up to a major gamma level. I was not just trying to after just long into this lower high. So I was out here, even though we do have a little bit of support right here on those heavy volume levels, and there is actually some, buy delta down here too, but I didn't consider it just because of that lower high. Now let's see what happens. It breaks through that, breaks down through VWAP, and we have kind of a confirmed lower high here. So I really like to take the volume profile of the entire move. For example, this one I would do from low open here to the high right here. Let me just get out of that one. And then since this is now kind of a confirmed pivot high, I will take it and just see what kind of volume profile we have. So this is where most of the volume has been transacted during this downtrend. This is one where you probably could have taken this move. It kind of creeps right into it and then blows down, but I don't like to enter on impulse candles like that. I stayed out in this case, but you can see that it rejected pretty perfectly the point of control of this downtrend so far. So let's go ahead and just kind of keep rolling here. So we do have sellers continuing to push down, but more slowly. This is actually what we call a start of a triple drive. So you have a big push down, and then a smaller, and then a smaller, and that can be bullish. So if you do get like a higher low off that, it can have a retracement. I'm going to go ahead and pull the volume profile over. Still, most of our volume so far has been in this area right here. So we can see right here, we do get a little bit of a higher low here. And at that point, you gotta, think what's gonna happen next. So we know that there's kind of this oscillation. We know that there's been lower highs posted. In my head, more likely what's going to happen is we're not just going to break up and just keep ripping through here. We do have this previous day point of control down here that really, it's been showing support, but it hasn't been tested yet. So that's a level I'm thinking maybe if we do reject somewhere here, have another lower high, we're probably going to aim for that level. So I always look and say, where is it most likely that price is going to have some kind of reaction at. So let's go ahead and just kind of make that assessment right now. We know likely buyers are probably going to push up a little bit, but because of this lower high right here, I think that we shouldn't just hop in long. I think we should look to see if we're going to have another confirmation of that market structure. So where is it most likely that things are going to kind of happen at here? So I always like to look over here and just see if we can confirm any of those volume levels using delta, our delta profile over here. So let's just see what those main areas are. And this is something I would have on my chart. Um, Throughout the entire trading day. I'm making these and kind of just editing them as I go. Give me 1 second. Hold on. Sorry about that. Okay. So these are things that I'm putting out my chart constantly. This is a sell delta zone, so I have plenty of templates over here where I use a red box for sell delta. We do have a buy delta box right here. Let's just mark that off. And I only mark off the most significant ones. So these are the two biggest ones. They're around the point of control. That makes sense. So I'm going to mark those off. Now, where is it most likely that this is going to retrace into? So it's going to go into first. It's going to have this buy delta box. more likely it is to fail at the point of control. And what is the point of control? Is there anything around that that we can kind of say, hey, maybe this is more significant? Well, there's a ton of sell delta right here, right? This is where sellers have been aggressively pushing down on this downtrend. So I think that's probably, if we, at least if we do get a rejection off of that, I think that it's a very, very good chance that we'll have a big push potentially to low of day, potentially down to this previous day's point of control. So I wouldn't hold a trade all the way down there. I'll probably just go to right here where we have some kind of, where we had that open, the pre-market point of control. Let's go ahead and just make that red because we know we're looking at short. And if it does break up through that, maybe make some higher lows, maybe we'll get a retest of this gamma zone up here. But with the market structure, how it's currently making lower highs, I think this is definitely our most likely outcome here. Let's roll the tape and see what happens. So let me make this to where we can see it a little more clearly. You have to keep increasing the length on the delta profile to see it more so throughout the day. And we actually do have a bigger one here from buyers now. So buyers are pressing into this level. Let's go ahead and see. We pump right into that. Let's extend that POC just so you can see it exactly what that level is. Right there. So now our idea would be pretty much like this. You see sellers coming in off that level. I probably wait for another little confirmation. So it tries to pump back into it again. It literally taps right into it and you get this push down. So this is where I like it, even though there's a big buy delta zone right here. I like it because it's breaking into that, and mainly we've rejected that point of control that we know there's sell delta there. We know that's a major level from what we just talked about. It's another lower high. That's exactly what we wanted to see happen. And you can take the trade here. I actually didn't take it right here. I took it right when it got out of the other side. So I entered one right there. And then you can see it even retests it afterwards. It comes back and taps this buy delta zone here. This is the buyer's last chance to get out of a trade. So usually this is going to be kind of a violent rip down. We do get that push down. So let's actually put the trade on their short position. So we take it right here. Oh, it's taking a little bit. Hold on, give me 1 second. Ay, ay, ay. There we go. Okay, so our stop loss is going to be above this buy delta zone. If you took it here, if you took it up by the point of control, it would be above this sell delta zone or above that point of control. So let's go ahead and just run the tape. And again, we're taking this trade down to the pre-market point of control right above it right there. Pulls back up into it. And actually, we can actually see something else about this too. If you have a session volume profile up, let's go ahead and get this off. A session volume profile, that'd be the volume of all the session up until the current time. You can see that where it pulls back into is actually the entire session point of control. That's where it fails. So that's a great indicator to stay in the trade. And we have our price, our target hit, and it actually does pull back a little bit into VWAP, which is that previous buy delta zone, and then into close, you get this push right down to that level that we wanted to see hit eventually. So not during the day, but you can see how these volume levels really are targets and great places to enter. So that was my favorite trade right there. Off of that downtrend point of control with the sell delta, let's move into the next day here. Hopefully I don't want this video to be too long. So I'll try to move as quickly as I can on the next one. So the next day, this was Thursday, the day after FOMC, the rate decision. So this usually is a crazy day. I'm going to go ahead and just start with our pre-market analysis. So that is right here. So what can we say about this day? So this was the most previous session that we have to look at. Our point of control is this line right here, this highlighted green box. What can we say is that in the pre-post market after FOMC, price ripped up, and where did we open? We opened right on that point of control. So that was some support already. What is the most resistive um, where does it have to break to kind of send it, the most recent high volume that we have would be this day. So this volume peak right here, this point of control, that's where I'm looking for it to break above and to hold a low above to kind of just take new highs. Now, I don't think that this is just going to happen all in pre-market. I think that's probably not likely, even though we do have a previous day point of control support. So I was just waiting to get that confirmation in session to support above this volume area right here, the point of control from this day, which was our recent all-time high. And if it breaks down below that, likely we're going to retrace first to this low volume node right here. And then if that breaks, we're going to retrace back to that previous day's point of control right here at around 710.6. So let's go ahead and see what happens. Again, this is kind of our plan. If it breaks down here and rejects here, we can take it to here. If that breaks, we can take it to our previous day's point of control. If that previous day's point of control holds and we get bullish market structure, we can take it to here. If that breaks, we can take it to here, just kind of based on what we're seeing in the session. And then finally, if it breaks above that, we can take it up. I probably wouldn't be in too long after that, but let's go ahead and see what we actually saw throughout the day. So this is our 2-minute chart throughout the day. Let's go ahead and run the tape so we can just kind of show you guys what trades we actually ended up taking here. So let's make this delta profile a little smaller or a little shorter. Okay. So again, we're starting in right in pre-market. This is around open. We are getting lower highs, but it is supporting this. This is that low volume node right here. So let's see what happens. On open, bam, it was a massive gap down candle. So don't ever open on uh, impulse candles, let alone an open impulse candle. So I was just out right here, just kind of waiting to see what happens. Um, okay, so it pulls back into this low volume node here. It actually goes to VWAP, and that is our heavy sell delta zone right here. I think I did actually end up taking a short right here. Forgot to even mark that, so I ended up taking a short right here down to our point of control, and that was because there was this obvious, very, very heavy sell delta zone right here that we ended up rejecting, making a lower high. This was like more of a scalp, if anything, but we do get that pushed down. Right now, uh, our price is at the previous day's point of control. Remember, I said it was 710.6. So you can see that as soon as price comes into there, we get some buys off of that. And let's just, again, I do not just take reversals. It has to have structure. It has to have, you have to see buyers coming in. That's the biggest mistake a lot of people make, is that when they see this bounce off of an important level, the level's there, it's important, but because you're trying to take the trade too early without the confirmation of structure, a lot of people end up getting stopped out that way. So I'm going to go ahead and just wait off this. You can see it's actually still has some resistance off this low volume node, but every time it comes back into this previous day's point of control, we see buyers entering from that previous day's point of control where there was the heaviest volume on the day before. So now we're actually starting to get this same thing, kind of a triple drive into this level. Still not taking it right. We're making lower highs, lower lows. And we also have this really, really, really heavy sell delta, right? So there's tons of sellers here. Overall, this thing is getting sold more than it's getting bought. That's something where I would think about, hey, if it is going to go up, we're going to need to leave these sellers behind. We're going to need to make them cover. So ideally, at this point, you want to say, hey, if we're going to even have an opportunity of a long trade off of this previous day's point of control, we're going to, one, need to make probably a higher low at some point, and then we're going to need to break through these heavy sellers, the sell delta. We're going to have to get above this low volume node right here. We're going to have to support it, and then we're going to be considering taking a move back to that same point of control. That was our morning resistance. So something like this. Let's make that green. And then let's put this down here so we can see that there is actually two major sell delta zones that we have to get through. But still, that previous day's support, the previous day point of control, is one of the most powerful setups that you can take. You just have to time it right. So let's see what happens. We do get a little bit of a higher low there. Price failed to get above this low volume node. We're back down to our area down here that near that previous day's point of control, but we support a higher low. And now after testing above this sell delta zone, we're now making another higher low and testing above this sell delta zone, still waiting for this low volume node 712.5 to break and for us to see a little bit of support on that. So let's go ahead and see. We get that break above. Now we just need a retest. That's fine for me because my stop is going to be below this low volume node. Let's go ahead and put that long position in there from right here. And now the idea behind this trade is that you have these heavy, heavy, heavy sellers that are now underwater. At any point, if price comes down, they're probably going to cover because one, we just hit that previous day's point of control. We're making bullish market structure. This is basically fuel to the fire, gasoline, so to speak. So once they get underwater, I see we're above that, holding above this low volume node right here, where pretty much all of these guys are under. That's where I'm entering, and we get a massive little pop off of that, and there's our target hit right there for that trade. So that was the first trade that I really, really, really liked from this day. Let's go ahead and pull that there, and we could see that there's probably going to be some other trades to get through as well. So let's go ahead and just kind of develop the tape a little bit. So we're again testing this point of control that we failed from in the morning. This is the low volume node that's kind of separating the low volume from the high volume. And we're seeing a little bit of resistance off of it. So let's go ahead and take a volume profile right here and see what we can see. So already we have a lot of volume kind of conducted up here. I'm not just going to long into this and hope that the low volume node's going to break. It might, but if it does, that's not my kind of setup. I always want to wait for some kind of nice pullback to a point of control or a major low volume node that shows me that this thing is really, really ready to go again, especially when I'm green. Let's take this off too. So we're having a little struggle trying to break this low volume node. It does pop up into that morning resistance point of control. Out of there. But we get this little pullback here. We're still making nice, bullish market structure. This is still pressing up, but even it is kind of a little bit of a triple drive, a bearish triple drive this time. So we can get some kind of pullback. I'm going to go ahead and just cancel these because we're already outside of those zones. Let's go ahead and pull this out. Okay, so we have this developing peak up here. This is the low volume node of that peak. Um, Possibly could be some kind of support. We do get a pop up off of that. I didn't take this trade. I don't, you probably could have, just knowing that that's like a low volume node from this kind of uh, this area right here. So let's just look at what the session volume profile would have looked like up to this point. So you do have like a little bit of a low volume node there, but not enough for me to go ahead and take the trade. Let's see if we can see anything else. So again, if this does break up above that and support it, we might be off to the races there, but I'm just going to stay out of this one because it's heading right into that known resistance. So this is one where I probably would have taken, honestly. So if we look at the volume profile up to there, um, there's the point of control that's pulling right back into a point of control after testing into this area. I probably would have taken this trade, honestly. And I did get some profit on it. So again, stop under there. The thing is that resistance point of control is right there. It's fine. I probably would have still taken it, expecting a breakout, especially with it being FOMC day. So you could scalp it straight to that, but this did end up pulling back, I do believe. So started to support a little bit on the low volume node there. I would go ahead and pull out my volume profile to the highs. And we do still have some resistance on this point of control right here. So another thing is if it does pull back, it's fine. Again, my stop would have been probably below this point of control anyway. If we look, this is where there's a lot of building buy delta, right? So there's a lot of buyers from these lows that are pushing into this. So if it does pull back, it'll probably pull back there, whereas the most likely place it's going to pull back this point of control right here, the heaviest volume area where most of these buyers are positioned. And let me just mark off the, actually make this bigger, and we'll mark off where the buy delta is. So that would be our developed delta profile. And where's most of the buy delta is in this area. So there's probably this whole thing right here. Make it blue for buy delta. Okay. Okay, and we see once the sellers push through this, it kind of does take a little bit of the buy delta out of there. So now the heaviest buy delta is going to be this little zone right here. And that's still within the realm of the point of control, but this is where most of the buyers left are, which makes sense. It's around those lows, right? Um, Out of this, we see buyers come in strong. So this is where this heaviest sell delta, or sorry, buy delta zone right here, that's like the last resort for bulls before we crash back into the sell delta and probably hit this low volume node. So this is where I took another trade here, was when I saw buyers come in off of that. Stop is below that buy delta zone. And since we've been testing into this point of control, that was our resistance, been testing it. Likely eventually we're going to get a break. And what tells us if we're ready to go is if we get above that and we start supporting it a little bit. And then we should see kind of a push, especially after FOMC. So the day after FOMC is usually really, really, really crazy. Let's see exactly what we got here. So we see a little support now off of that low volume node. We get a break above, and we see those wicks coming in off of that resistance point of control that was keeping us down, the one from that previous session that I showed you guys on the 30-minute chart. So out of this, we have a pretty strong blow up, and we actually ran through this pretty much till the end of the day. So you see what kick-started it was around these point of controls of the runs, where the buy delta is. That's where you guys should look for those pullbacks on bullish trends. And then another important thing to just kind of talk to you guys about, it is so important to mark off your previous day's point of control, because look how heavy the sellers were coming into that level. but still they could not break it. And those heavy sellers ended up being a catalyst for this entire run. So this was an amazing day. We had a really, really good day in the Discord this day. Let's go ahead and move on because I know this video is getting a little bit long. Okay, that was this day. Let's move on to this day. I'm going to speed up a little bit on these. This was actually the day of FOMC, so I didn't really trade much at all. I did take a couple. There was one where we had this morning push up into this previous day's point of control was right here from this day. We failed out of that point of control at this low volume node. We we rebounded and I took a trade short off of this point of control of this downtrend. You can see it failed to get into there, which was also the previous day's point of control up here. Failed there, and I took a scalp down here. Same thing, I took a volume profile of this trend here where we knew there was additional sellers coming into the market. That point of control is right here. Let me mark these off. So where is it going to rebound into? That where these sellers were coming into the market, which was also the VWAP. So when I saw wicks off of that level here, I took it short down to this. This was a point of control. Let me just look at that real quick with you guys. So we're looking at this day right here. This day right. Oh, no, sorry. This day right here. My bad. So we're looking at this day right here. So we had that fail, that rebound into the previous day's point of control, and then we had a fail out, and we took this short down to this point of control, which is hasn't been tested yet. It's actually a virgin point of control. You can see how that point of control extends. This was a level I was looking to get to because it is an untested point of control. Usually the market tests these. So that's the level I was looking to take this trade to, and I took this short till I got to the low volume node that is, separating this point of control, this untested point of control from the upper, the other volume outside of it. And I took a trade from here till just, I always take the trade until about that level. And then you could have waited for this to come back again. It did, hit it again. By then, I think I was done trading because of FOMC. But it does hit it again, fail, and we actually get a break right into that point of control, and that's what was the catalyst for starting another run there. Let's go ahead through the next day back. So this day we had a fail. So this was the previous day's point of control. We had an open lower. It was rejecting that, so I was kind of bearish on that, even though we had a major breakdown in pre-market. Whenever you pass one of these low volume nodes and it's clearly a bearish trend, you should always be looking for it to retrace to that low volume node that it broke and short the top of this volume area right here. Let's just look at this right here. This would be this day. So you see how this is a low volume node here. This is actually a low volume node right here. Let's mark it off. So you see how we had this point of control right here, which was that same point of control we just talked about over here. We failed out below it. We failed down from this volume area into this volume area. So now I'm looking, we're in this volume area. If it's a bearish trend, I'm looking for price to pull back into that low volume node for a potential additional short down. So that's why I had waited for this to retrace to this low volume node. We now have a lower high confirming our market structure. Price got below VWAP, and we could take this short down to near our next low volume node down. So I think took this to the pre-market low. And that was it for this day. We did have a little bit of a nice, actually I did take this other trade too. Hold on. So we had price pop up out of this kind of wedge structure here. We had price come up here. I took a volume profile of that. Every time you see a consolidation, that's likely going to have a nice POC for you to play off of. So we now have bullish market structure. Price came back down. Same thing, this point of control was lining up with VWAP, and we could take this long to near our next low volume node above. So right there. So you can probably get out right there if you want to. So that was another trade based on this point of control retest. Okay, I believe that, nope, that's Tuesday. We got one more day to go this day. So this day was a little bit choppy. That's okay. One thing I want to talk about, let's do, oh, so sorry about that. So one thing I want to talk about here is, where are we right here? We're right here. So this previous day, our point of control was right here. That's this highlighted box. We're opening right in that same range, right? You can see already in pre-market, it looks like it's going to be staying within this range of yesterday's POC. Already that gives me an idea that, hey, maybe we're going to be a little choppy. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to break one of these low volume nodes because we're in yesterday's heaviest volume area. So when you see that, I usually just wait for things to develop, and then by 11 or 12 or so, if it's um, confirming that it's choppy, I usually tend to play reversal trades to stay within this zone. So that's why I really didn't trade at all during the morning. This was like just bouncing between these zones. I mean, you could have taken longs at the bottom and shorts at the top, but I like to confirm that it's going to be choppy before doing that. Anyways, so we got this pushed down. Now this was our low volume node. By this time, I was already thinking we're probably going to be playing reversals to stay into this area of yesterday's point of control, this green highlighted area. And when this bounced off of this low volume node here and then had a bull flag consolidation off of that. You can't, it, I waited for the pop up, the retest of it. You could just enter here if you want to. It's been reversing all day. I waited for a little bit more confirmation and I took this long back to our low volume node above right here. Stop is below that. Took it long to our low volume node above. And I do believe we also had some like buy delta here that we could have stayed in the trade, maybe waited for a break, but because it was reversing all day, I didn't want to assume that this low volume node was going to break. Let's look at what it looked like on the 5-minute chart just so you guys can see. This is our same volume profile over here. We opened up in this point of control range from the day before. This was the day right here. Let's actually look to see what the chart looked like on that day. So this is what it looked like. You can see this is our all-time high low volume node. This is that low volume node below. Remember what I said before, if we get a break above a low volume node, we're always looking for a pullback into that same low volume node. You want to long the bottom of the low volume or the high volume node, so this low volume node down here. You don't want to long into this low volume node unless you have significant confluence from, maybe a point of control or just kind of like any other major confluence. If I don't have that, I'm waiting for it to break above it and then retest it. So we're looking to long these areas. And I mean, if you want to short these areas, you can, but since this trend is bullish, you have um, a lot more success with waiting for a long off of these low volume nodes, this bottom low volume node. And then of course, if it does break down, now we might be in a bearish trend, so if it confirms a lower high on that, then we can take it down uh, down to here. But you're always waiting to play off of these low volume nodes, or if you have an in-session point of control that confirms your bias, then that's what you should do. So you can see how these low volume nodes are significant in being traditional support and resistance. So this was where I took that trade right here and took it up to that next low volume node right there. So that is everything I wanted to talk to you guys about on this replay. I'm going to do some other videos coming soon. If you guys have questions or want to hop in the Discord and see what trades I'm taking live throughout the day, we have a great community where we have a bunch of awesome traders. It's not, it doesn't cost anything. We do this all for free just for the community and learning how to trade using volume and other methods. So would love to see you guys in there. The link is in my Discord. And as always, guys, happy trading.